Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Janice. Grab a seat and make yourself comfortable. We are going to do a floral painting today with a little bit of mixed media. And I'm starting with a blank 9x12 canvas board. So it's like a canvas, but it's flat. These are my favorite to work with just because they're so durable and you can really get in there. I'm going to be using a brayer, a 4-inch brayer. So they're easy to paint on. And sometimes the wrapped canvases can give in the middle when you're doing mixed media. So I really like the canvas board, and I always get them at Hobby Lobby, like in a 5-pack. And to do my background, I'm also going to be using a palette knife and maybe a brush, but a lot of times with the background, to get more texture, I like to use tools versus a brush. And then I'm going to use some white acrylic and gray acrylic and one other color, but I haven't decided what color yet, just to add like a tiny little bit of color because it's going to be gray and white. But I don't want it to have a lot of color because it will take away from the flowers won't stand out. So I kind of want it to be more of a neutral background, but I want it to coordinate with the flowers, so I am going to add a little bit of color probably towards the end of the layering process on the background. I am going to skip over to fast forward through the layering process in the background, and then I'll show you how I sketch the roses or the flower. I can talk. I'll show you how I sketch the flowers out in real time and layer some stuff. So I'm kind of going to go back and forth between time lapse and real time. I hope it doesn't make you dizzy. Grab your Dramamine if it does. But we're going to have some fun. And let's get started on the background. Okay, so I finished my background. I did use the gray and the white and a little bit of a green here just to add some texture and dimension. It kind of blends in with the table, but I also am a very messy artist and I don't clean stuff really good when I'm done with it. But this brayer actually had some yellow on it and it transferred on here, and I actually like how it turned out. It gave a really good like texture and dimension, like that other kind of colors I was looking for, because the flowers are going to be really bright. I want them to stand out. And so now I am going to sketch the flowers out, like do a rough sketch. And I was thinking about doing it horizontally and kind of offsetting the vase over here. So I just kind of, I don't want a really fancy vase. I'm going to try to use pencil, but if I can't see it on the gray, I might have to switch to a pen. And then I'll do this side of the vase a little bit higher. And then kind of like the vase is going off of the page. And then I just start adding in details, and now I do have to bring it over because I want to fill this over here. So I kind of start the flowers closer to the vase, and I represent them with like a big circle, even though I'll put different details in. I just want to do like a rough kind of outline where I'm going to place stuff, because I can always like paint over these pen marks. And then let's do some twigs with some, of course, little circles on them. I like the twigs. So this is just like a rough guide. Sometimes I end up changing things. It just depends on where it takes me. And I am going to add some paper here, some visual interest. Let's do a couple leaves in here, and then like maybe a bud flower. And I'll do another bud right here. And a small round. And then what if we do like a leaf branch right here? And maybe a more of a twig right here with some of those berries on it, or polka dots. Now my pen's wanting to act up and not draw, because acrylic paint is actually plastic when it dries. So sometimes the medium you use won't draw on it because it is plastic. Flower. Let's do another vine over here. With flowers, you don't want to make everything equal on both sides. So you do want it to balance, but you don't want it to be like perfectly equal. I'm gonna do a bud here. And let's do some twigs here. And let's do a nice big flower here too. And then we'll fill in with some leaves. And maybe another twig kind of coming up over here. I just make these up. I don't know if something like this actually grows. It's kind of just something that comes out of my brain, I guess. But then I'm gonna show you real quick how I add my papers, because I like to add like some mixed media. So I just literally tear them. This is a music sheets that I found at when I was thrifting a couple weekends ago with a girlfriend. I just thought the music sheets were really cool. So I'm gonna do some of my leaves in music sheets, and then I do paint over it a little bit, so some of it's still peeking out, but you'll see some light green colors. And I just tear it up and put it around the canvas where I want it. Gives me kind of like an idea to where I put my leaves, because sometimes things disappear on me. You can see like there's still some outline of the leaves peeking forward. It doesn't have to be the exact shape of the leaf that I drew. It will work out in the end, I promise. This is the fun part of mixed media, is it's the one medium that I feel like I get to play the most, and just do whatever. There's no rules, and if there are rules, they are meant to be broken in general with artwork anyway. There's a little bitty leaf. It doesn't even look like a leaf, but I'm gonna make it work. Let's see, I have one kind of big leaf right here, so I'm going to try to fill that space with this music notes, or music sheet, I should say. It has music notes on it. I think that was a bud, so I'm going to have one more leaf right here. I do kind of feel bad because this is a hymn book, and I hope Jesus isn't mad at me for tearing it up. But, you know, a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do. It was $1 at the flea market, and I fell in love with it. All right, and then this is just tissue paper in my favorite polka dots. And I like to use this for the center of the flowers. And I literally just tear it up like I did the leaves. It doesn't even have to be a perfect circle. And I don't like to put it in the center of each one because then it makes it kind of juvenile, like the flower is just facing straight up. But if you put the center of the flower like off-centered and then build the paint around it, to me it looks more organic and natural. Let's see. A couple more, but the little ones, since I have to make a smaller center, you can't see all the polka dots, so I might find something different for those. I have a little box here, oops, of like papers. Let's do this one for the little ones. And that'll give it more interest too when you're using different papers. This one I will put in the center. You do want to have one that you can have in the center is fine. This one I'm going to put right at the top. And then the little fella in the middle. I don't know. What do you guys think? Where should I put the center? I am going to close my eyes and throw a dart. I'm kidding. I'm going to put it like to mirror that one. And then it's further away from there. So then after I kind of have everything where I want it, I just use the Mod Podge, the matte Mod Podge, and paint it all down. I'll show you how I do one, and then I won't bore you with doing all of them because that's like literally watching paint dry and nobody wants to do that, I don't think. I just start on one and then work my way around. Paint the back of the leaf with some glue. And I still have a lot of glue left on it, so I am going to paint the neighboring leaf as well. And then mixed media is definitely more of a messy medium. But that's okay. Sometimes it's fun to make a mess and then see something really cool and pretty come out of it. So those two are done. You just have to make sure you don't have any bubbles in it because, and then doggone it, son of a gun, the pen that I use is running. So I might run into some trouble with that, but hey, it might add some more texture and dimension and who knows. I'll try to stay away from the pen lines with the Mod Podge and we'll see how the acrylic does on it. And so I'm gonna pause here and glue all these down and come right back. Okay, so everything is dried and glued down, and I know I'm looking at this through the camera, it really doesn't look like much, but I promise once we start adding some colors and stuff, that's the fun part about artwork, is the process is more important than the outcome. And but sometimes the process, you have to really learn how to trust it. And if you ever watch time-lapse videos and artist videos, which I'm sure you do, you see paintings and different pieces in really awkward stages, and I often wonder, oh my god, how are they going to pull that off? And somehow it always works in the end. So I'm going to show you a couple of the elements, how I paint them in real time, and then I'll speed through the rest of it. Let's see, where am I going to start? By grabbing a brush. When I work with acrylics, I buy multiple inexpensive brushes. I don't have very many expensive acrylic brushes because I'm really rough on them. Acrylic paint tears them up. When I work with watercolor, I tend to invest more in my watercolor brushes because I'm not as rough on them. So I just have a bunch of kind of inexpensive brushes that I've gotten at Hobby Lobby and Temu, and I don't even know where, Michael's probably, like in those really inexpensive sets. But for flowers, like petals, like a round brush like this, a flat filbert I think it's called, this is an 8, I'll probably use that. And then This has a size, but it's a 1/2 inch. And I think it's a filbert too. I think that's what it's called. But who knows? I don't know everything. Let's see. I think I'm going to start with this big boy. And when you're painting flowers, even though I'm not a realist, I'm more of an impressionist, I still like to follow a couple rules. And one of them was offsetting the center, and which we did on all of them except for this one's still kind of off center. But the other rule is that the darkest is kind of around the center, and then it gets lighter on the outside of the flower and the bowl of the flower. So I like to follow that rule. And with acrylics, you really want to go from your darkest color to your lightest color. With watercolor, it's the opposite. You start with lighter layers and build up till you get darker. But with acrylics, we're going to start with the darkest, and I'm actually going to mix a little bit of quinacridone red with black. And I know that sounds weird, but it kind of makes like more of a purpley kind of color. And that's really good for just the dead center of the flowers, the ones that I'm going to do kind of red and pink. And I put too much black in it, but I am going to use a little bit of it this dark, and I'll show you why. You'll see in the end how it kind of gives it really good depth and dimension, but it's kind of like a weird purpley brown color, but you won't see too much of it in the end painting. That's the other thing with acrylics, there's lots of layering. And it's been a minute since I've done a floral, so bear with me. Hopefully it turns out. If not, you will never see the light of day of this video. I'm kidding. I like to learn from my mistakes, I guess. But you see, I'm just kind of putting some dark, and I said I was going to start with the big flower, but sometimes I do like this little assembly line. But I am going to add more red to this. It is thundering here in Florida. It has been raining all day. That's the one thing about Florida weather that's irritating, is midday it just like thunder and rains like crazy for a couple hours, but it cools it off. So that's nice. And I don't mind a good thunderstorm as long as I don't get stuck in it. All right, so let's add some more red to that mixture I made. And I'm using a variety of different brands. This one's the Master's Touch, which, excuse me, is a Hobby Lobby brand. And they, a couple weeks ago, had like 50% off or something crazy on their acrylics. So I picked up a couple new colors and a couple colors that I use often, like yellow ochre. I tend to use quite a bit, and stuff like that. So it was a good sale. And I don't want to cover up too much of the polka dot center because that's the fun of it. But I do want to get kind of close in there. But you see, it just looks like a whole lot of nothing at first. But I promise we will pull it together and make something we're proud of here in a minute. Just might take a minute to develop. Hey, I'm going to use my palette knife to do some of the floral work too, because it gives it a different texture. And of course, I need to change my stinking water. Oh, it's never ending. I need a big bucket. But I'll use the bigger filbert for the outside of the flower petals. And while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to show you how I start to develop a leaf here that we put in there. And I'm just going to use a little flat number 6 flat. And this is going to look really crazy for a minute. So just bear with me. We're going to do some teal. That's going to be our lightest green. have 3 shades of green on my palette right now. This is the first one. We're gonna do the lightest color at the top of the leaf and the sides, and kind of fill in where that pen ran earlier when we were putting the Mod Podge on. The acrylic will just cover that right up. These are fun paintings for me because they're very loose and there's nothing technical about them. It's just go with the flow. Get that hair out of here. So I'm just surrounding that paper. I still, like I said, want it to peek through. So I'm just being a little bit careful that it's still peeking through so we can see that at the end. But you still want to be able to identify it as a leaf. So I'm giving them those shapes. Oh my gosh, that thunder is cracking. I love it. It's so relaxing. I have a fall candle from Bath and Body Works lit. My Diet Coke sitting right here. Like, Wyatt just fell asleep on the couch. He's taking a nap. Like, what could be better? Afternoon of painting and thunderstorms. I got a hair stuck in here. I'm always shedding. All right. Rinse my brush off in the muddy water. I'll change it here in a second. All right. I'm gonna have to wait for this to dry before I can do anything. And I do use like an embossing gun to dry different layers because I'm impatient. But I don't want to do that on the video because it's really loud and obnoxious. So I'll come back here in a second when it's dry and move on to the next step. All right, so it's mostly dry. Sometimes I test it. That's the fun part about mixed media too. Like, I always end up with like messy hands. It looks like I've been in the studio playing, having fun. Because it's just messier. That's the messiest medium, is the mixed medium, because you're using everything. But I was gonna show you how I'm gonna do a bud. I have a medium magenta, and I also have the Holbein acrylic Compose Rose, which is like one of my favorite, but this is $20 a tube for this paint, so I try to use it sparingly. But it's one of my favorites. But let's do the Compose Rose, and I'll show you. I'm literally just gonna come in here. This is one of the buds that I placed, and I'm gonna have it surrounded by some greenery a little bit. Let's see. I'm just gonna fill it in here. And this was a bud too. And this was, I think that's it. So let's rinse the brush. I actually got some clean water while I was up drying this, so. But I have 3 different shades of pink on my palette that I'll go back in with because that adds like a lot of depth and dimension. And you're gonna be surprised like how much of this, little of this color is gonna kind of peek through here in a minute. But I'm gonna work on these leaves. It's kind of like working on a puzzle. You gotta go back and forth while things are kind of drying. But this is also a Holbein color. And this is my first tube. It's called Greenish Yellow, but I have a backup tube because it's like one of my favorite greens. Like, it is spectacular. Green is my favorite color anyway, but this is just that kind of ugly, olivey, I don't even know, just avocado 70s green, and I love it. And this one is considered, the opacity is considered transparent. So even though I'm painting over the leaves, you can still see the music notes behind it. And I wish it was opaque. I wish I had this shade in opaque. I have not been able to find it yet. But for this reason, to be able to see the music notes behind it, I'm glad it's semi-transparent. You can still see the colors too, kind of peeking through there. All right. And then I have one more shade of green that I'm gonna kind of put here and there. It's darker. I am gonna use it down here, like around the vase too, kind of just to fill in some areas of shadowing. It looked darker in the tube. I haven't tried this one yet. It's the sap green, the Master's Touch from Hobby Lobby. But kind of like in between the flowers to add some shadows. I don't want to add too much because I want this to be a brighter painting and it's ending up looking a little darker. I've been addicted to this bright color palette and I just don't feel satisfied when it doesn't look bright. I don't know why, I just have been loving the brights lately. So I don't want to get too carried away with that sap green. So a lot of it will still be covered up too, so. All right, let me see. It's pretty much dry, so I'm gonna start putting the leaves around those. No, I don't want to do that yet. I want to add more pink dimensions to those buds first, and maybe a little bit of yellow. Let's do a lighter pink. It's like a peachy pink. I think it's called, it's another Holbein color. It's shell pink. So it has a little bit of a peachy undertone. And usually with flowers, like I literally just keep layering until I'm happy. And sometimes they turn out wonderful and sometimes I get irritated and layer too much and overwork them. Like I said, this is more of a loose floral. I don't do realistic paintings very often just because I'm lazy and like instant gratification, and those are harder to accomplish. But I do a version of florals that are a little more detailed. This is really loose. And this is probably gonna end up being a longer video, which is fine. They don't all have to be 1 minute or 10-minute videos, I guess. Just starting off my YouTube channel, so I'm learning a lot as I'm going. I do think that I'm gonna work on these leaves because that's a safe spot right now. I probably should switch my brush though. And I may, because it's too big. These are getting muddy because of that pen. But I can work with it. Where else did I put leaves? Over here. Sorry, I have a glare from the light. So sometimes if I'm searching for something, it's because there's a glare on the painting. Not because I'm blind. I mean, I am a little bit blind. And these leaves will also have a couple shades of green. I'm just starting them backwards with the medium tone first. And that's really what I do with my flowers. I have 3, and the leaves, I usually have 3 to 4 like tones, like a range of the same color, but light, medium, and dark. All right, so I think I'm gonna add some white to these buds. I don't wanna do too much, but just like a little white. And I want to do a little blob of yellow. Just for shits and giggles. Just like literally a little blob. And then I'll go back in with the darkest pink real quick, which was the Composed Rose, and do like another blob. There's a little bit of water left on my brush, so it's kind of a different texture or consistency. But I'm just literally building up little layers until I am happy, or until I give up, whichever comes first. I think I'll do a little bit of yellow. Oh, it's not gonna really show on the leaves. Because it's mimicking the same yellowish green that I already had on there. So let's put a dab of the darkest green in specific areas, kind of like on a curb, and at the top to kind of take down some of that brighter turquoise green. I don't want to do too much down here because there's already darker. But this is just a messy, fun, intuitive floral, and it's not very organized. But that's okay. Sometimes that's what I'm in the mood for, and that's what I do. Sometimes I feel more technical, and I do a more detailed flower. It just depends on what kind of a mood I'm in, honestly. All right, so I think I'm gonna go back in, and I know I said I was gonna time lapse this, but it's kind of moving quick because I'm being so loose with it. But I'm gonna start working on the bigger flowers, and I'm gonna start with the Composed Rose. And I'm gonna try to like lay down almost like little petal strokes. Here and there. It's smearing that pen. I guess I learned my lesson there. I already knew that lesson. I don't know why I grabbed the pen. I'm trying to concentrate on filming this video and doing artwork where I'm just used to doing time lapse, not live, and just letting the camera go and I forget about it and I can just focus on the artwork. So I'm getting used to kind of talking through these things and losing my brain a little bit, so forgive me. And I really didn't intend for these all to be like circle flowers, but I don't know, I got talking and kept them that way. But I don't mind it, I guess. We do have some of the buds, those aren't circles. So literally just getting in here and getting busy and sloppy. But you can see how a lot of that really dark color is disappearing with the layering, and you just want a little bit of it peeking through. I really like the music notes on the flowers. It's turned out cool. I like it. All right, let me get in here and see if I can get these buds wrapped in a leaf, which I'm gonna do the greenish yellow for that. Try to hide the pen work, but I actually don't mind it peeking through a little bit. It gives more texture. All right, so those two are done, kind of. Let's go over here and look at this one. It's kind of peeking out from behind that flower. So I want to leave it like that. I like it. I don't know, this is kind of a crazy painting. It's kind of turning out crazy, isn't it? But I am not gonna give up, because sometimes I give up. I had before, I don't do it as much anymore. I'll try to finish it no matter what. But there were times when I was first learning how to paint that I would just get to a certain point and be frustrated. It didn't look like I wanted it to, and just quit. And I found that when I would push through, I usually ended up liking it. So I try not to give up on anything, but it still happens occasionally. I just walk away. Let me see, what are we gonna do next? I think I'm gonna use a Posca pen on these vines for the actual vines. So let me do that real quick. And then I'll add the, hopefully I don't stick my hand in the paint though. Then I'll add the berries. And these aren't meant to be perfect either. I'm not gonna do that one yet, excuse me, because I'm gonna do some more work on the vase. And then it's hard to kind of angle my hand when I'm filming in a comfortable position, but I'm doing my best. And then when this dries, I'll do the same thing on those veins, and I'll outline those in a like a really loose, scribbly way, which is fun. Because it doesn't matter if you mess up, it literally, you can't tell, because it's a messy kind of painting. All right, so I'm gonna work a little bit on the vase, and what I kind of wanted to do was just really loose again. Sorry about the video game in the background. Wyatt woke up and he's watching YouTube himself, watching a video game guy that he likes to follow. Let's see, what other color do I want to put down here? Probably like some yellow. I'm not even gonna wash my brush. I'm just gonna go in with it. And this is loose down here too. Just like Grandma. Loose. I'm kidding. Grandma's sweet and innocent. All right, I'm getting close to being at a spot where I'm gonna have to stop and let it dry. But I do think I'm gonna fill these berries in, but I think I wanna do orange. So let me grab that. It's a bright orange. I'm gonna do the Liquitex Vivid Red Orange. And I'll use a round brush to apply that, I think. Because I want to keep those tighter and like more, like accurately circles, like little polka dots. I might have to go over them twice because the pen work showing through. I don't mind a little bit of it, but it's pretty dark still. All right, just going in a little circular motion and filling these all in. I do like the orange. I'm glad I picked that up because it's more of a contrasting color. And we have a lot of pink on this one, which I like pink too. Don't get me wrong, but the orange kind of makes it pop a little bit over here, makes it brighter. Just gotta move my chair around to get in here. That's the noise you hear when I come over here on this side of the painting. I don't want to move the painting because I want to keep it in frame for you guys. So I have to move myself. I kind of wish I would have put some of these in the middle now, not just the outside, but maybe I can still squeeze some in. Reload my brush. Yeah, maybe when it dries, I'll squeeze some more of these like orange little berries in the center. All right, let's see what's still wet. I do need to change my water again. That's the other thing about acrylic painting is you have to change your water more often than you do with watercolor. It gets pretty murky pretty quick. All right, I think I'm gonna let this layer dry and change my water and I will be back. Okay, so that layer is dry. Mostly, oh, I got a little orange on me. Don't tell anybody. And so I'm gonna work on the big flowers here with my little filbert, and actually might, towards the end, I'll use my palette knife. But now I'm gonna do the light pink in kind of like little petal strokes. And then we're just really wanting to cover up a lot of that gray. And this will take several layers to look right to me. Just stamping down some color. Don't want to forget the tops. Sounds like Wyatt has the hiccups. All right. While that layer is drying on the flowers, I'm going to do a little bit more pen work with my Posca. And when I do this, I don't like to perfectly outline the leaves. I purposely kind of color outside the lines because I like to. I like to do like a little bit of a loop at the tip if I can sneak a loop in. And then this set right here. I just think it gives more texture and makes it more interesting than doing like a perfect leaf, I guess. And then, oh, I smeared some up here. Oh well. Let's do another layer of the orange berries real quick, because I will outline those too with the Posca pen. And it's not looking like it is really making much of a difference, so I'm just going to go through really quickly because it's not, it must be a translucent on the opacity scale, this orange, because it's not really covering like my imagination told it to. This is a really sloppy painting. I don't know if it's because I'm trying to hurry because I don't want this to be an enormously long video because I figure people might not want to watch the whole thing. But I am kind of hurrying through this, sorry. Kind of sloppy, but it's working for me. Sometimes you need to just be sloppy and not be as technical or perfectionist, because sometimes I get in that mood too and I can get carried away and go too far the other way and be too technical and picky, and then it takes 8 hours to complete something. I just kind of wanted to do something quicker for you. All right, so the orange berries are done again. I think I'm going to add a touch of teal to these to add some interest. Just a little blob, that technical term, blob. All right. The other thing that the leaves are missing, which I can't do to the ones I just did, but these bigger ones I can, they're missing a little bit of a highlight. So I'll go through and just give them a white swipe. And that will brighten things up too. That was too big, but oh well, what's done is done. I did not forget about this set down here. I just haven't found a good time to work on it, I guess. I need to finish the vase to get there. And the vase is going to be really messy. I should use my Posca pen to outline the vase. I like to do scribbles. There. And I think I will add some white and orange down here. I really want the vase to kind of dry before I get into that. And actually feel like I want to stamp some of that wet paint off while it's still wet to give it some more texture. So literally taking my paint towel and just stamping over it. See how it kind of mutes it down? It was just too much for me there for a second. And then let's throw a little orange down the side. Hey, bud. I got some of the Posca pen on my brush, so it's trying to sweep some of that black out of there. Okay, that was loud.
Sorry, I was just trying to show you.
That's good. You're fine. All right. Let me see. No, that is definitely not dry yet. What can we work on that is not wet? Background's done, thank you. I might have to pause the video and wait for this layer to dry again. I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. That layer is dried, and I did use the Posca pen, the black paint pen, to outline my berries, and I also added a dot of white in the middle and added some white to the vase down here. And basically you just need to finish up the big flowers. So I'm going to use a big filbert brush, I think it's a 16, and make some petals. So you can see it's really just all about a lot of layering with this technique, because then after this dries, I'll go in and highlight it with white, and then it should be done. I didn't realize this is going to be a long video, so if you are still with me, God bless you for watching till the end. Kind of going outside the lines now a little bit, just to add some interest, because the brush is almost empty of paint, so it's given a lighter touch. All right, so I'm gonna let that dry real quick, and then we'll do the white. And actually wanted to touch up the green on the buds real quick too, because I want the flower to look like it's coming out, and right here it just looks like that big stripe of white. It doesn't look like it's coming out of the center of a leaf, so I just wanted to correct that over here too. All right. So I'm going to dry this, and I will be right back. All right, so this is all dry now for the most part. It's dry enough to add the white highlights to the flowers. And I don't always add them everywhere. I'm kind of strategic, maybe like one side here and there. All right, so those are pretty much done. They're looking good to me. And then I'm actually gonna outline the leaves with the Posca pen and then add a dot of white to the smaller leaves. Just to add some more texture and dimension. Got a little clumpy piece. I actually ran to Hobby Lobby between this video and the last one. So a little bit of the paint on my palette got a little bit of a thick layer on top. All right, so that's good. And then let me see. I'm gonna outline these leaves, these bigger leaves, with a Posca pen, just so they can pop out if it'll let me. Sorry about all the background noise. My daughter got home from work and she's relaxing with some music in the other room, and then Wyatt's still watching the YouTube over here. I'll be better at next time I film to plan it better when I'm maybe alone. So you don't have all the extra background noise. And the cat just ran by. Never a dull moment around here. All right, and then the other thing I'm gonna do, if the white is dry, I'm actually gonna hit the dryer real quick. Sorry about the noise. And then I'm just gonna add a little bit of a yellow Posca pen to a scribbles, if it works. You can't really see them maybe on camera, but you can see them in real life. Just adds a little bit of something, something. And it's literally scribbles. Sometimes it takes the paint up that I already laid down, so you have to be kind of careful. There, you might be able to see that one a little bit better. It's wanting to peel the paint up because there's so many layers, so I'm not going to add too much. I don't want to damage our underlayer painting that we worked on. All right, so I think that this painting is done and complete, so I'm going to sign it. I'll sign it right here. And that does it for today. Thank you for watching, and always want you to remember that everyone is born an artist. It's just that some artists have had more practice, and it's your artistic career may have ended in kindergarten, but it's never too late to start again. And don't be afraid of making a mistake, because that's why they make erasers. Have a good one. Bye.